Hey everybody, Zach again, NewToTorah.com, coming in, making a video for you today, and we're going to talk about all of these articles I'm seeing coming out, talking about food shortages and how food shortages are coming, and lots of articles, news articles, and stuff being shared on Facebook, social media, about how this global food shortage crisis is coming. And there's a lot of people who are really worried about this. And people are sending me articles saying, hey, have you seen this? What do you think? What should we do about this? Is there anything we can do? How do we prepare for this? Do you know about this, Zach? Did you know? And so I'm not getting all that excited about this because this has played out numerous times over the last years, decade. I remember I joined a website called Frugal Squirrels back in 2006, and I didn't really know that. I had to go there today, log in. It's been like for ages since I'd logged in there, and check in and just see exactly when I joined that, because it seemed like I got out of the military, and after I got out of the military, I was into preparedness. I started getting into that realm and seeing about different aspects of preparedness. And I have said often on my channel, in fact, I debated which channel do I put this video on, because I see so much of it from the homesteading community. Because really, as I've said in many videos, when you push preparedness and self-preparedness to its logical conclusion, you will end up at homesteading. You will end up at homesteading because raising your own food, your own gardens, your own livestock, food preservation, creating your own energy with solar panels or whatever, that's all from a preparedness mindset. A lot of it is. And so when you push preparedness to its logical conclusion, you end up at homesteading. And so I debated with myself, where am I going to put this video? Should I put it on the New to Torah channel or the American Homestead channel? And because there's a lot of people in my homesteading feeds on YouTube who are talking about this global food shortage, and a lot of people are worried. And here's the deal, folks. Fear sells.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you.
Fear sells. In fact, there are entire websites that are so popular who get just so many hits, and channels who get so many hits and views because they sell fear. And that's just because people love fear. This is why, the Bible even addresses this. Yeshua addresses this, don't worry about tomorrow, or you look at all of it's Halloween is coming up in a couple months, and look at all of the haunted houses that people will be putting up and then selling tickets to, so people can go and be scared out of their wits. Horror movies, I've never been into horror movies. I know some people are. I've never been into that. And not only that, but now knowing that so much of that is based in the occult, I want nothing to do with it. But there are people who pay money to go to a theater, sit in a dark room, and be scared out of their wits for an hour and a half. So it's just, fear sells. It's something that some people love. And when you try to tell people, hey, listen, this is happening, this is coming, people buy into that, and they feed on that. And so I've been down this road a number of times. There have been numerous instances where occurrences have happened, whether it be weather-related or economy-related or whatever, that people say this is the perfect storm, and our food shortages are going to happen, where people are going to be starving, the grocery store shelves are going to be bare, and there's nothing we can do about it, so we just better get ready. You better mentally prepare yourself, and if you don't know Jesus, you better come to know him. Stuff like that has happened over and over again. And that doesn't happen. Now, I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to be, a Debbie Downer and tell you that it's never going to happen, because because there are some people who are really excited. They're happy. They want it to happen. They don't understand that there's going to be a lot of people when this really does happen. And throughout history, when it has happened, lots of people die. Disease, wars, all of this stuff happens. So it's very real. If you think that this can't happen, you're not a student of history. However, I think we need to be cautious, because I have seen this play out, and I have been guilty in the past of promoting this fear because I have bought into it. I'm not so worried these days. And number one, because I do have a homestead, I have pushed this lifestyle to its logical conclusion and gotten on a homestead. I raise my own animals. We have our own food. I have buckets of grains, rice, wheat, barley, beans, and salts and sugars and all kinds of things we have put up in our pantry. And so I'm well prepared. So that makes me sleep easier at night. It makes me not get so excited when people start talking about this again. Because it does. It comes up every so often. And right now there are people saying that there's a coming perfect storm, Zach. And here we go. Store shelves are going to be bare. People are going to be starving to death. So could that happen? Sure. Could it happen? Sure. But I don't think so. Numerous times people have predicted this and it hasn't played out. And right now there are people out there who are saying we're at the beginning of a perfect storm because the grain producers of this country are failing because of so much rain this year. And so they talk, and then sure enough, in the mainstream media, there are people who are saying that the farmers are basically losing their farms because they are not being able to get their crops planted or even harvested. Okay, and so you have lots of people throughout the Midwest, the breadbasket of this country, who are not being able to do what they need to do to bring food to market. One of the reasons I wanted to put this on the New to Torah channel instead of the American Homestead channel is because there are some reasons why, because a lot of these farmers are basically coming to the knowledge and facing the fact that they're going to lose their farms because they can't get their produce in and they owe the banks, and so they lost their farms. Well, there's some Torah commandments related to this. We have forgotten, and so many people are quick to say, oh, the law is nailed to the cross. And over and over again in my videos, I tell people, no, the law is not nailed to the cross, folks. The punishment for disobeying the law, that was what was nailed to the cross. Read it very carefully. The law was not nailed to the cross. The punishment, the hatred that God had for us, the enmity that God had for us for breaking his law is what was nailed to the cross. But see, there are still consequences for breaking the Father's law. And so we're seeing that today. I've made the point recently that wine today is very, I'm going to get into the weeds a little bit. Wine today is not like wine like the way it was 50 years ago or beyond that. Wine today has been commercialized in such a way that every wine, if you're buying a wine bottle for under $30, okay, today, anywhere in the store for under $30, really, you're buying commercialized wine. It's meant to be perfect every single year, every single bottle. Consistent. But that's not how wine was originally. Wine, there was good vintages and bad vintages. There was good years and bad years. You picked up a bottle of whatever year it was, and you're like, yeah, that was a good year. And then you pick up a bottle of a different year, and like, yeah, that wasn't such a good year. It's because weather plays a huge part. Temperature plays a huge part. If you had obsessive rain, or what's it called? Lots of rain that year, your grapes turned out different. If it was a drier year, your grapes turned out different. If it was a hotter year, a colder year, temperature-wise, the grapes turned out different. And that affected the outcome of the vintage. It's the same with, the grains today. Look at all the grains. So much has been altered. We have fields of grains today that are planted that are meant to be Roundup ready because we have to be able to treat them so that we don't have weeds to choke out. We want a better crop, or we have genetically modified corn that they'll produce more ears than regular corn, heirloom corn, and just all these things that we do to the food supply that is not natural, and we're paying the consequences for it. We're paying the consequences for it because we've altered the Father's creation to make it better. The love of money is the root of all evil. It's 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10, I believe, where it talks about how this was something that made people err from the faith. You castrate your animals. The Father says, I truly believe the Father says in his Torah, don't do that. And it talks about in that verse, it says the offering. It's not that was never in the verse. That was added to the text. Another reason why the King James isn't perfect. Don't do this in your land is what the verse says. But we do this because it makes the animals fatter. Is it better for the animal? Is it better for us? I would think not. Is it better for us that we can get this GMO corn? I would think not. Well, they can definitely produce more of it. They can avoid diseases and pests because of these things, sure. But is it better for us? I don't think so. You've altered the Father's creation. Likewise, so many of these farmers now are faced. There's an article, here's the article. It says that the average U.S. farm is $1.3 million in debt, and now the worst farming crisis in modern history is upon us. While all this is true, it's also being noticed here, the end of the AmericanDream.com is the website putting this out. Again, a website that exists solely to sell fear. The end. I mean, let's just look at the domain. The end of the American dream. I mean, the whole domain is about fear. But it's true that there are farmers who are losing their farms because of the disastrous weather that they've had, allowing them to not make their crops, allowing them not to, or disallowing them from planting their crops. But what does the Bible say? The Bible says, hey, listen, if you have a bad year, you don't lose your farm because it's your inheritance. If you choose to sell out your farm to pay off a debt, you get it back at the Jubilee. But see, again, another reason why not living according to the Father's commandments is detrimental to your lifestyle, to your family. Because here these farmers are going to lose their farms. Some of them, they're so far in debt, they have debt that will never be paid back, can't be paid back, and so the banks will basically collect their farms and they'll never get their farms back. Nor will their children. Their children will now lose their inheritance because of what man's law says instead of what God's law. So do you see, there's so many examples of why going away from the Father's commandments will be detrimental to your family and life. And that even goes down to the food we eat. These farmers are going to lose their farms, and they're in so much debt. So you understand why I'm posting this over at the New to Torah site instead of the American Homestead site, even though there's so many people, so many homesteaders, so many homestead channels, so many people in that arena that are talking about how this coming food shortage, how we have this perfect storm, and how grocery store shelves are going to be empty. But see, there's a lot that's associated with this that can be related to God's law and how we uphold that law, how we walk out that law, how we obey that law. There's blessings and curses. I said before you today, blessings and curses. Blessings if you keep my commandments, and curses if you don't. See, if you don't alter the perfect grain that the Father gives us, you can avoid some curses. See, if you don't castrate animals in your land, you can avoid some curses. See, if you don't, give your land away or, manage your land according to what man says, see, there's blessings and curses associated with that. Because if you did things the way I told you to do, you'd have blessings. If you have a bad year, it's just a bad year. If you grow wine, you make wine, you have a bad year, it's just a bad vintage. Next year will be better, maybe. Or the year after that will be better. But see, you don't lose the farm. It's crazy. This is why I wanted to share this on this channel, because I think it's so important. It's, you look at all of the calamity around us and you see the reason behind it all is a turning away from the Father's law. It's just another example of so many in the world we live in today. So on this whole topic of a coming crisis and what we're going to do about this, they talk about how corn and soybeans didn't get planted this year. And I want to go back to the reason why I'm not that worried about this. Number one, where corn and soybeans are concerned, yeah, it's been a real bad year for the United States farmers. And so many farmers are going to be losing their farms for this. But hay farmers, where I'm at, because of all the rain we've had, I mean, we haven't gone 2 weeks this summer without rain. I mean, it's rained today. It rained yesterday. I mean, we've had so much rain. But the hay farmers are, I mean, they're getting they're maybe getting a fourth planting if temperatures stay up, because they've been able the hay has been grown so fast. They've been able to get so many cuttings that the prices of hay for people who need it, like me, because I feed hay in the winter, has dropped down to like $30, $35 for a 6x6 large round bale and that's delivered. You don't even have to go get it. They'll bring it to you for that price. That's crazy. Rice farmers in this country are doing really well. The United States produces about 3 million tons of rice every year, or more than that. 3 million tons. We're on the scale of rice producers. We're kind of the low, end of the pole there. But I mean, we still have we produce a lot of rice for our country, and they're doing great. So where it's hard for one farmer, it's good for another farmer. In one part of the country, it may be a struggle. In the other part of the country, it may be a blessing. So while corn farmers and soybean farmers have definitely done bad, what about all the other farmers? What about barley farmers? What about wheat farmers? What about rice and oats and sorghum and millet? There's so many other grains that this country produces and the world produces that if a couple farmers, one set of farmers have a bad year, other farmers who plant their crops at entirely different times are seeing great years. They're seeing good years. They're seeing average years. They're not hurting. And because corn goes down, soybeans go down, most of it's all GMO anyway. So, I mean, let's be honest. Do you really care that bad? Are you buying that stuff anyway? If you are, you're wrong. But, some of the other ones like millet and sorghum and barley and oats and those grains are doing rather well. Rice is doing rather well. I looked it up. Global rice is up this year. I looked it up. You can look it up too. World and U.S. wheat harvest are up this year. Okay. Record harvest of grain in Crimea is being reported. Record harvest of corn in Brazil. In fact, if you don't know about corn in Brazil, I mean, the breadbasket of the world is going to be Brazil. In fact, some people are speculating all of these Amazon rainforest fires that are going on right now is because Brazil is out there burning down these forests because they want to produce more grain and more grain. They have amazing amounts of land, even pastured land that isn't part of the rainforest that they're using for all kinds of corn and soybeans. And I had a friend of mine who was a developer years ago when I was working in St. Louis. He worked on the Monsanto project for South America, Peru and Brazil, because Peru and Brazil grow lots and lots of GMO corn. So if you think because of what the farmers in the United States are going through that you're not going to get your GMO corn, think again. You can't go into a grocery store today, almost any time of the year, and not pick up a tomato. It says grown in Brazil. I mean, that's in U.S. stores now. You don't think that Brazil's not going to send their corn and soybeans up here if we don't need it? You don't think the U.S. manufacturers of all these GMO products are going to just stop making their products? No, they're going to go buy the Monsanto corn from Brazil. So if you're having a bad day thinking you're not going to get your GMO corn from Monsanto, think again. You'll be able to get it just fine. And all these processed foods that y'all love so much. Because it'll be out there, I promise. Record harvest of corn in Brazil. Record harvest of rice is being reported in Iraq, of all places. So while the U.S. and one small segment of its grain population may be hurting, there's lots of reports around the world of grains, or even in the U.S., grains that are doing okay, doing fine. And that's just in grains, not to mention other foods that get produced. I think people love to buy the fear. They love to buy the fear. And it just is the way people are wired. Sometimes they dwell on fear. And that's sad that we do that. And the Bible, Yeshua talked about this. We just have to be careful. Let's not be fearful. Can bad things happen? Absolutely. Historically, it's shown that if you're a student of history, which everyone should be, because that's how we don't remember, and it's how we allow things to repeat themselves by not being students of history. So if you're a student of history, you know these things can happen. They absolutely can happen. How do you deal with it? You prepare yourself so that if it does happen, you and your family are going to be okay. You and your family can be okay. But and it just takes a little bit of steps. When I first got started in preparedness, in fact, I think I did a video years ago, and I don't know if it's anywhere on my channel. It would be way, way back at the beginning, where I did an experiment for a week. I spent $5. Was it $5 a week or $5 a day? I spent $5. Basically, went to the dollar store back when dollar stores were actually dollar stores. You could buy things for an actual dollar. Nowadays, you can go to dollar stores and nothing's a dollar. But you went and you got $1 worth or $5. You spent $5. You bought 2 bags of rice, 2 bags of beans, and some cooking oil for $5. Now, I don't know. There's a big debate on what cooking oil is the right cooking oil, but you can use. We prefer coconut oil or olive oil, but even some vegetable oil. If you're starving, does it really matter at that point? No. $5 would buy a whole bunch of beans, rice, and some cooking oil, and you did that every day or every paycheck. If you did that every paycheck, just took $5, maybe $10 if you can afford that. But if you're really hurting, if you're really struggling, $5, and go to the dollar store or go somewhere where you can buy, even at Walmart, you can buy cheap rice, cheap beans. Beans and rice. People have subsisted on that for thousands of years. Beans and rice. And some cooking oil. You would have a stash. And then you throw, every once in a while you splurge on maybe a little bit of spices, some things to make these stuff a little more powerful. Maybe some canned butter. If they used to make canned butter, you can still buy canned butter. Maybe buy some canned butter. That would make the beans and rice taste really good. You can add butter to an old tire and it'll taste pretty good. But do you see how doing a little bit adds up over a long period of time? And then you can have that peace of mind when everyone's going crazy because they haven't prepared anything. You've got a little nest egg sitting there that you can feel good about and help you sleep better at night. I did a video. It's called The Parable of Gomer. I believe it's called Parable of Homer. I think you can search for that on my channel, New to Torah, The Parable of Homer. And you can find that video I did, and it's all about preparedness. Look that up. I'll put a link in the description below. Okay. Don't get freaked out by what's going on today, guys. I'm getting a lot of stuff about this in my inbox. A lot of people are emailing me, Zach, what do we do? Have you heard about this? What do you think? That's just what I think. Calm down. This has happened many, many times before. I did a video not that long ago it was 2 years ago, on everyone was saying, we're going to go to war with Russia. I said, guys, we're not going to war with Russia. And boy, the names, go back and read the comments in that video. And wow. The comments were like, Zach, you don't know what you're talking. It's going to be days. It could be hours. We're going to be at war with Russia. This is going to happen. Never happened. I'm not saying it can't. We could end up going to war with Russia. Relations right now aren't that, great. But it wasn't going to be then. I was pretty sure about it. And again, this comes up often. Doomsdayers, people who love to sell fear. All right, we'll leave it at that. Hope you enjoyed the video. Go home, read your Bible. Thanks.